Smoke still rose from the burning machines, and broken weapons lay scattered across the red ground. The sky above was gray, covered in the ash of war. Commander Jack Rylan, a human soldier, walked through the wreckage slowly, dragging his injured leg behind him. His armor was cracked. His gun was empty. His unit was gone, destroyed. In the last wave, he was alone. Jack had been sent to Varellan for a border planet under attack, but the defense mission had failed. His dropship was destroyed, and no one came to rescue him. Now, all he could do was survive. Maybe someone would find him, or maybe not. He stopped near a fallen tree and sat down, breathing heavily. His body ached. His mind was tired. Then he heard a soft voice. "Are you a human?" Jack blinked and turned. A small figure stepped out from behind a broken shuttle. It was a young girl, maybe 10 years old in appearance, but she wasn't human. Her skin was shimmering silver, and her large violet eyes glowed faintly. She wore a long robe, with golden patterns, and a strange crown rested on her head. Jack stared at her. "Who are you?" The girl stepped closer and bowed her head. "My name is Princess Vera, daughter of Empress Kaliera of the Zenthari Empire, and I need your help." Jack raised an eyebrow. "A princess? On a battlefield? You're far from home, kid," he said. Carefully, Vera looked up at him, eyes full of worry, but also hope. "I have searched many planets. I use forbidden technology to scan for you, not just any human. No, you have no family, no allegiance, and no ambition for power. That's why I chose you." Jack laughed weakly. "You chose me? For what?" The girl stepped forward and said words he never expected. "Human, my mother must have a husband, and I beg for a father. Please marry her and rule the galaxy." Froze. He stared at her, waiting for the joke. But the princess didn't smile. She looked serious, desperate. Her tiny fists were clenched. Jack shook his head. "Listen, kid, I'm just a soldier. I don't marry queens, and I don't rule galaxies." "But you could," she whispered. "You must," for Jack could. Answer, he heard engines. A large shadow passed overhead. A massive starship descended from the clouds, smooth, silver, and shining like a blade. It landed softly nearby, and its doors opened with a hiss. Dozens of royal guards in black and gold armor marched out, surrounding them. Jack stood slowly, raising his hands. But the guards didn't attack. One of them bowed to the princess. "Your Highness, we've located you. The Empress awaits." Princess Vera pointed at Jack. "Bring him too. He is to meet my mother." Jack wanted to say no. He should run, hide, escape. But his legs didn't move. Inside the starship, everything was quiet and clean. The floors shone like mirrors. The air smelled of strange flowers. Guards walked behind Jack as he was led through shining corridors, deeper into the royal cruiser. Finally, they reached a large chamber. The doors opened with a low hum. At the far end of the hall stood Empress Kaliera. She was tall, elegant, and terrifyingly beautiful. Her silver gown flowed like liquid, and her long hair shimmered like starlight. Her face was calm, her violet eyes glowing with ancient wisdom and deep sadness. She studied Jack with quiet interest, so she said softly, "You are the human my daughter chose." Jack stood still. "I didn't choose anything. I just got shot down." Kaliera gave a small smile. "And yet here you are. You're injured. Sit." The medic moved to help Jack, but he waved him off. "I'm fine." The Empress stepped down. From her platform, her voice was soft but strong. "You must wonder why you're here. Let me explain." Jack crossed his arms. "Please do." Kaliera looked at her daughter, who stood proudly beside her. "For years, my empire has stood on the edge of war. My advisors tell me I must take a husband to prove strength and unity. But every noble who wishes to marry me seeks only power, not peace." Jack nodded slowly. "So you're looking for someone who doesn't care about the throne." "Exactly." Kaliera said, "Someone with no political blood, no secret loyalties. Someone who fights for people, not titles." Jack smirked. That doesn't sound like me. I'm just a soldier. But my daughter believes in you, she said, and I believe in her. Jack looked at Vera. She was watching him closely, her eyes filled with something he hadn't seen in years. Hope. He looked away. Why would you trust a human? Killara walked closer. Because humans are unpredictable, dangerous, and honest in ways our kind have forgotten. There was a long pause. Finally, Jack said, I still don't. Understand? Why me? Vera stepped forward. Because I want a father who is brave, who protects, not controls, who tells the truth. That is what you did in every battle you fought. I read your records, I watched your missions, and I chose you. Jack didn't know what to say. He wasn't ready for this. He wasn't a king. He wasn't even a good man, but he remembered something. A long time ago in the middle of another war, a child he had saved had said something similar. Thank you for not running away. Maybe that was who he was. Not a hero, not a ruler, but someone who stayed when others fled. Later that night, Jack was given a guest room on the starship. It was more like a palace chamber-soft bed, glowing lights and calming music. He sat by the window, looking out at the stars. Everything had changed so fast. His unit was gone, his mission was over, and now an alien child had asked him to become her father. An empress had offered him a throne. It was insane. He should say no. He should leave. But a small knock came at the door. Princess Vera entered quietly. She walked to him and held out something. It was a small drawing, done in shaky lines and bright colors. It showed her the Empress and Jack together. Standing under a shining sun, Jack took it silently. Vera whispered, even if you don't. Marry my mother. Please don't leave. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. I'll stay, for now. She smiled, and for the first time in a long while, Jack felt like maybe, just maybe, he wasn't lost anymore. Commander Jack Rylan woke up to a voice. Good morning, human. The Empress awaits. Jack blinked and saw a servant standing near the door. Oh, the room was still too soft, too clean, too quiet for him. He wasn't used to beds like this. He usually slept in tents or under crashed shuttles. But now he was on a royal ship, a guest of the Xanthari Empire, and maybe something more. He sat up and rubbed his face. She wants to see me again. The servant nodded. Was arranged breakfast. With you? Jack walked through shining halls escorted by 2 royal guards. Everything felt strange. The walls glowed softly. The floor had no dirt or cracks. And everyone who passed him bowed slightly. He didn't like that. He was just a soldier, not royalty. But when he entered the royal dining chamber, he found Empress Killara waiting. She stood beside a long table filled with strange fruits, hot drinks, and alien dishes that smelled like spice and sweetbread. She wore a silver robe today, simple but elegant. Her long hair was tied back, and her glowing violet eyes studied him carefully. Good morning, Commander Rylan, she said. Just Jack, he replied. She smiled. Very well, Jack. Please sit. I down slowly. Wasn't sure if this was a test or a meal. Vera entered a moment later and ran to sit beside him, grinning. You came. He gave her a small nod. Didn't have much choice. She giggled and started picking fruit from a golden bowl. Killara spoke calmly. You are wondering why I've asked you here? I have a few guesses, Jack said. Good. I want to know yours. Jack leaned back and looked her in the eyes. You're being pushed to marry. You don't trust your own nobles. You want someone with no interest in your throne, and you think a human might be safe. Killara gave a slow nod. Correct. But you don't really know me, Jack continued. I'm not some perfect warrior. I've done things, seen too much. I don't belong in a palace. Killara didn't blink. And yet you are here. My daughter chose you. I trust her. More than I trust any general or counselor. Jack glanced at Vera. She was quietly chewing something that looked like a purple apple. Her eyes sparkled as she watched them. I don't know what to say to that, Jack admitted. Killara stood and walked to the window. Let me show you something. The window turned transparent, revealing a view of the galaxy outside. Stars twinkled and planets glowed in the distance. But closer to the ship, several warships floated in silence, each marked with different emblems. "These are the ships of the noble houses," Kalira said. "They are watching, waiting. Many of them hope I will choose one of their sons to rule beside me. Others hope I will refuse a land, weaken the throne. They want civil war." Jack frowned. "You think marrying me will stop that, Kalira?" Turn toward him. "I think it will confuse them, break their plans. You are not part of the game. You're the unexpected move." Jack shook his head. "And what if I say no?" Kalira's voice was gentle. "And I will thank you for your honesty, and still protect you as a guest of the Empire. But Vera will be heartbroken." Vera looked down. Jack sighed. "I didn't ask for this." "I know," Kalira said. "But sometimes the galaxy chooses for us." Stayed on the starship and learned more about the Zenthari Empire. He walked through the training halls, met some of the palace guards, and even joined a sparring match with the captain. He lost the first round but won the second. "Human strength is unpredictable," the guard captain said with respect. Jack smirked. "You haven't seen human stubbornness yet." He also spent more time with Vera. The princess followed him everywhere, asking questions about Earth, human food, and stories from the war. She laughed at his bad jokes and listened closely when he spoke about his past. Jack started to feel something strange. Peace. It had been years since anyone looked at him with trust. Even longer since someone called him family. One evening, while walking through the royal gardens, Vera tugged on his arm. "Do you like my mother?" Jack paused. "She's strong, smart. I respect her." "That's not what I asked," Vera said with a pout. Jack looked up at the stars. "I don't know yet, but she's not like anyone I've ever met." Vera smiled. "She smiles more when you're around." Jack chuckled. "Does she now?" But not everyone was happy with his presence. That night, someone broke into his room. Jack woke to a whisper of movement. He rolled out of bed just as a knife flashed through the air. Ta! A masked figure lunged at him, but Jack grabbed a chair and smashed it into the attacker's side. The assassin staggered, then ran toward the window. Jack chased him, grabbed his arm, and ripped the mask off. A noble's crest was tattooed on the man's neck. The guards arrived seconds later and arrested the attacker in the royal chamber. Kalira listened to the report with a cold face. "House. Vexer," she whispered. "I should have known." Jack stood beside her, arms crossed. "You knew they hated you?" "They hate change," she said. "And you are change. Then why keep me here?" He asked. "I'm not safe. Neither are you." Kalira stepped closer. "Because you survived. You fought back. You exposed one of my enemies. That's more than most nobles have done in years." She placed a hand on his arm. "I trust you, Jack." Jack looked into her eyes. He didn't see a ruler now. He saw a woman holding the weight of galaxies on her shoulders. He nodded slowly. "Then I won't leave." The next day, the royal court gathered. The empress stood before the nobles and spoke clearly. "Last night, there was an attack on our guest, the one chosen by my daughter." The nobles murmured. Kalira raised her voice. "The attacker was sent by House Vexer. Proof has been shown. I will no longer allow traitors to hide in shadows." Then she turned to Jack, who stood beside her in polished armor. "I name Commander Jack Rylan of Earth, a protector of the realm and a trusted guest of the throne." Gasps filled the room. One noble stepped forward. "He is not of our blood. He is not even of our kind." Kalira stared at him. "Ken Yeti is loyal. Can you say the same?" Silence followed. Later, in private, Kelliar and Jack stood on a balcony watching the stars. "You made a bold move," Jack said. "I had to," she replied. "They needed to see strength." Jack looked at her for a moment. "And what now?" Kalira turned toward him. "Now, I ask you again, not as a ruler, not as a strategy, but as a woman who has seen your courage and your heart." She took a breath. "Will you marry me, Jack? Not for power, but for peace, for Vera, for the future." Jack looked at Hurley. He remembered the empty battlefield, the years of war, people he lost, and he remembered Vera's small hands holding his, her eyes full of hope, her voice whispering, "Please don't leave." He gave a quiet smile. "I'll think." "About it?" Kalira smiled back. "Then I'll wait." The royal starship floated peacefully in orbit over the glowing capital planet of the Zenthari Empire. Below, lights covered the cities like stars had fallen on the land. But peace in the sky did not mean peace in the galaxy. Inside the throne hall, the Empress stood with her hands behind her back. Her violet eyes stared at the large screen, showing messages from all over the Empire, some of support, others full of threats. Jack Rylan entered the hall, still dressed in training clothes. His hair was messy, and a bruise marked his jaw from a sparring match earlier that day. He saluted casually. "I hear the nobles are nervous." Kalira turned to him with a calm expression. "They are more than nervous. They are preparing for war." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Because of me?" "Because of what you represent," she said. "Change, hope, and danger to their power." Jack walked over and looked at the screen. "Maybe I should leave." "No," she said softly, "but firmly now is when I need you the most." Jack was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You asked me to marry you? I didn't give you an answer yet?" Kalira waited, silent. He continued, "I'm not a politician. I'm not a king. I'm just a soldier with blood on his hands." Kalira stepped closer. "But you are honest. You are strong. You care. My daughter loves you already." Jack smiled a little. "That part still surprises me." "She sees the truth in people," Kalira said. "I trust her judgment more than anyone else's." Jack took a breath. "Then let me be honest. I don't know what it means to be an emperor, but I want to protect your people. I want to protect you. I want to be the father Vera is proud of." Kalira's eyes softened. "Is that a yes?" Jack nodded. "Yes, I'll marry you." Word spread like fire through the empire. The Empress had chosen a human. The noble houses were in shock. Some were furious, others curious. The poor citizens, tired of corruption, celebrated. Many believed the human was different, that he might finally bring justice and fairness to the empire. Royal workers began preparing the grand wedding. Craftsmen from 12 worlds were summoned. The dress of the Empress was woven with threads from star silk spiders. The throne room was decorated with ancient banners and glowing crystals. Jack stood in front of a tall mirror, wearing ceremonial armor black, with silver lines and the symbol of unity on his chest. He looked like a warrior. And a King Vera entered, her small face glowing with excitement. "You look perfect." Jack grinned. "That's a big word." "It fits," she said. "You're my father now." Jack's heart warmed. He knelt down and hugged her gently. "I'll always protect you," he whispered. The royal wedding was watched across thousands of star systems. Kalira entered the throne hall, her dress glowing. With soft light, her crown floated above her head like a small moon. She stood beside Jack, calm and powerful. Jack stood straight, but he could feel his heart beating fast. The royal priest raised his hands. "Before the stars, we witnessed the bond between two worlds and the birth of a new era." Kalira held Jack's hand. Jack looked into her eyes. "I don't know what the future brings," he said quietly, "but I won't run from it. Not anymore." She smiled, "And we will face it together." The priest finished the vows. A beam of light passed over them, a sacred sign of unity, and just like that, the galaxy had a new ruler, Emperor Consort Jack Rylan. But not everyone was pleased. In the dark corners of the outer systems, leaders of noble houses gathered in secret. "This human is a threat," hissed Lord Vexer. "He must be removed." "Not yet," said Lady Mora. "Let them believe they are safe. Let them enjoy peace until we take it from them." A message was sent to a rebel fleet hiding beyond the star wall. "Begin the uprising." Back at the capital, Jack was busy learning the duties of a ruler. He sat beside Kalira in court meetings, listened to reports from planets, and helped solve disputes. But he didn't always use fancy words. He used action. One day, a group of workers came to complain about a noble who forced them to mine dangerous crystals without rest. The noble claimed it was legal. Jack stood and said, "Then the law is broken." He traveled to the mining world himself, saw the suffering, and made the noble apologize publicly. The workers cheered, and news spread fast. "He listens," they said. "He acts." But the victory was short-lived. A warning signal arrived from the border planets. Rebel ships had appeared fast, armed, and burning villages. The nobles in court panicked. They dare attack during peace. One shouted, "They fear the human." Another whispered. Kalira stood. "We will not be bullied. Prepare the fleet." Jack stepped forward. "I'm going to—" "No," Kalira said. "You're not trained for command in space battles." "Don't need to command. I need to fight," Jack said. "Let me lead a strike team." She hesitated, then nodded. "Be careful." Jack led a team of elite soldiers to a rebel-controlled planet. The fight was brutal. The rebels had advanced tech, but Jack used old human tactics: traps, speed, and surprise. They took back the communication tower, rescued a group of hostages, and forced the rebels to retreat. Jack's armor was cracked, and he had a deep cut. On his arm butt, he smiled. "We're not finished," he told his team. "We're just getting started." Back on the starship, Kelleher watched the footage. She saw Jack bleeding but still standing, helping a wounded child to safety. "He's not a king," one general said. "No," she replied. "He's something more dangerous. He's a symbol." When Jack returned, Vera ran into his arms. "I saw you on the news," she shouted. "You're amazing." Kalira smiled softly. "And alive." Jack grinned. "Always." That night, the three of them stood on the palace balcony. The stars shone above them. Ships passed quietly through the sky, no longer in flames. Kalira placed her hand in Jack's. Vera stood between them, holding both. "You don't just rule the galaxy," Kalira said. "You give it hope." Jack looked at them, and for the first time he felt it not just duty or honor, but belonging. He wasn't lost anymore. He was home. The throne hall of the Zenthari Empire was full of light and banners. The war was not over, but hope had returned. People from across the stars sent messages of thanks to the Empress and her new human consort, Jack Rylan, but peace was only on. The surface inside, something dark still moved in the shadows. Jack Rylan sat at the royal desk, reading one of hundreds of reports. A small hologram hovered above the table, showing star charts and resource lines. His head ached from politics. He looked up when Kalira entered. Her expression calm, but tired. "You're working early," she said. Jack leaned back. "I've been up since dawn. These nobles keep lying in circles." Kalira smiled gently and walked toward him. "They think they can confuse you with words, but you see through them." Jack sighed. "Maybe, but I didn't become a king to argue all day." Kalira placed her hand on his shoulder. "He became king to protect people. That is enough." They shared a quiet moment. Then a young voice broke the silence. "Father." Princess Vera ran in, her silver dress glowing as she smiled brightly. She held a tablet. "Can I show you my new plan for the Star Academy?" Jack grinned. "Of course." Placed the tablet in front of him. It showed a training program for young citizens, mixing human and Zenthari styles. Jack raised his eyebrows. "You made this?" "I got the idea from watching you train soldiers," she said proudly. "Want to make an academy for peacekeepers, not just warriors?" Kalira looked impressed. She's already planning the future. Jack hugged his daughter gently. "Maybe she'll rule better than both of us." But that evening, the Empress nearly died. The royal palace hosted a peace meeting with leaders from neutral systems. The great hall was full of music, light, and carefully chosen foods. Jack stood beside Kelleher as she spoke to the guests. Her voice was smooth and powerful. Her words strong and wise. Suddenly a flash of light. A small device flew through the air and exploded near the royal table. Guards jumped into action, pulling the Empress to the ground. Jack grabbed her and covered her with his body. Smoke filled the room. Screams guards fired at shadows in the chaos. Jack saw a figure slipping through the pillars. He ran after it, chasing the assassin down a corridor. The figure turned and fired a pulse blade. Jack rolled behind a column and returned fire with his wrist weapon. The assassin fell. Jack pulled off the mask. Another noble symbol was tattooed on the neck. House Mora, in the royal chambers. Kalira sat with a medic, scanning her for injuries. She was unharmed but silent. Vera stood near her, eyes full of fear. Jack entered, his face hard. "It was Mora," he said. "They planned it." Kalira nodded slowly. "Then they want war." "I'll give them one," Jack said darkly. But Kalira looked up. "No, we'll give them justice." Jack formed a secret task force made of elite humans and loyal Zenthari guards. They used stealth ships and tracked rebel signals across the outer systems. For the first time in history, a human led missions inside Zenthari space. The people cheered. Jack's methods were different. He didn't burn cities, he didn't punish civilians. He exposed corruption, freed prisoners, and offered choices. Many rebels surrendered without firing. Some even joined him. Kalira watched all this from the capital. "He's not just fighting," she said one night. "He's healing." Meanwhile, Princess Vera trained every day. She learned how to use her voice. In council, she practiced combat and studied diplomacy. But her favorite lessons were the ones with her father. He taught her about Earth, about human values. "You fight hard," she said once, "but you also forgive." Jack nodded, "'cause I've seen what hate can do." One day Vera asked him something quietly. "Do you think I'll be a good queen?" Jack didn't answer at first. Then he knelt and looked into her eyes. "You're already more than that. You're a light. No matter what happens, I'll be proud of you." She hugged him tightly. A few weeks later, Kalira held a high council meeting. The nobles sat in long rows. Some stared at Jack with respect, others still with doubt. Kalira stood and raised her voice. "Let it be known that the rebellion is ending. Our people are rising, not in fear, but in strength." She turned to Jack and let it also be known that this man, Jack Rylan, has done what our generals could not. He brought back hope. Murmurs filled the room. Kalira continued. "Therefore, I declare him not only my consort, but also curler of the empire. From this day, he is your emperor." Silence, then applause. Some nobles stood in respect. Others hesitated, but none spoke against her. After the meeting, Jack sat in the gardens with Kalira. Fireflies floated in the trees, and the night air was cool. "You didn't have to do that," Jack said. "Yes, I did," Kalira replied. "You are more than a partner. You are a leader now." Jack looked up at the stars. "Then I'll protect them all, just like I promised." But the final storm was coming. In the deepest part of space, the last rebel fleet was preparing a massive strike on the capital. They believed the empire had gone soft, that a human on the throne was a weakness. They were wrong, but Jack didn't know yet. Late one night, while studying defense plans, Jack received a secret message. A Zenthar informant had found something terrifying, a doomsday device hidden on a mining moon built by House Vexer, designed to destroy the royal palace from orbit. Jack stood and called Kalira immediately. "We need to act now," she nodded. "What do you need?" "Just one ship," Jack said, "and a team who won't run." Hours later, Jack and his team landed on the dark surface of the mining moon. Shadows moved between metal towers. Jack led them silently through vents and tunnels. They found the device huge, humming, and already armed. "Time, 14 minutes. Disarm it," Jack ordered. His engineers started working, but the rebels attacked from all sides. Blaster fire lit the tunnels. Jack fought like a storm, covering his team. He was hit once in the shoulder but kept going. 2 minutes left. The engineer shouted. Jack looked up and saw a rebel leader charging toward them with a detonator. He threw himself forward, tackled the rebel and slammed the device. Out of his hand, boom. Dust filled the chamber. Jack coughed and stood. The weapon was deactivated. Mission success. Kalira watched the stars from the balcony when the message arrived. Device disarmed. Jack is safe. She closed her eyes, a rare tear falling. Vera appeared beside her. wrapping her arms around her mother. "We're safe," she whispered. Kalira smiled. Because of him. When Jack returned, the capital welcomed him as a hero. But Jack said, "No speeches." He walked straight to the palace, found Kalira, found Vera, and simply said, "I'm home." 1 month after the final battle, the galaxy was changing. The flags of rebellion were gone. The warships that once attacked the capital were now part of the Empire's defense fleet. Trade routes reopened. Farmers returned to their fields. Children went back to school without fear. And at the center of it all stood a human emperor, Jack Rylan, the soldier who had become a king. The palace was alive with celebration. Today marked the first Unity Festival and 100 years an event to honor peace and togetherness between planets. For the first time, humans, Zinthari, and dozens of other species stood together as allies. Colorful banners floated through the sky. Ships danced in the clouds. Music from 100 worlds echoed through the capital city. In the throne hall, Jack wore his simple ceremonial armor. No heavy crown, no golden robes, just the same uniform he wore when he first arrived. He stood beside Kalira, who wore a gown made of soft silver light, her crown glowing gently above her head, and between them stood Princess Vieira, taller now. Wearing her first royal cape, Jack looked out at the crowd. Thousands of beings tall and short, smooth-skinned and scaled, had come to see the royal family. He took a breath, then spoke. "When I came here, I was just a broken soldier. I didn't know your language. I didn't know your laws. I didn't even know why I was still alive." He looked at Vera. "Then a little girl found me and asked me to become her father." The crowd laughed softly. She believed I could help, that I could protect her world. And somehow, the Empress believed too. He turned to Kalira and smiled. "And now, I believe." His voice grew firm, not in war, not in power, but in us, in this strange, beautiful, impossible family we've built together. The people clapped. Some cheered. Others wiped tears. Jack raised his hand. "I will never be the perfect ruler, but I promise this. I will always stand for justice, for peace, and for the children of every world, because that's what a father does. And now, this galaxy is my family." The applause shook the walls. After the speech, the festival began. Vera led a group of young cadets in a parade. Kalira spoke with planetary leaders and helped sign new treaties. Jack visited booths where alien foods were served, some too spicy, some too slimy, but he tried everything with a smile. Children ran to him for stories. Elders bowed with respect. Soldiers asked for his signature on their armor plates later. He found a quiet corner in the gardens. There he saw a familiar face. Captain Ryvek, the Zenthari guard, who had once doubted him. Ryvek saluted. "Emperor." Jack shook his head. "Just Jack," Ryvek smiled. "You've changed everything." "Not alone," Jack replied, "and not finished." That evening, the family sat together on the highest balcony of the palace. The stars above them twinkled, and fireworks painted the sky in red, gold, and blue. Kalira held a warm drink in her hands. Vera leaned against Jack's shoulder, half asleep. "It's quiet now," Kalira said softly. "For now," Jack replied. "But peace doesn't keep itself." Kalira nodded. "Still, it feels like we're finally healing." Jack looked at the stars. "I remember standing on a battlefield and thinking I had nothing left. No home, no future." He turned to them. "And now, I have both." Kalira reached for his hand. "You've given us more than we expected. Not just strength, but love." Jack smiled. "And you gave me something I never had. A reason to stay." But even in peace, work continued. Jack didn't sit on a golden throne all day. He traveled to border worlds. He met with governors and workers. He helped rebuild towns destroyed during the rebellion. He listened to people's problems and fixed them when he could. His human way of thinking direct. It's honest. Sometimes strange changed things. Old laws were rewritten. Slavery was ended on 3 outer planets. Trade taxes were reduced. Education Programs were started for species that had been forgotten. Jack didn't rule like the nobles. He ruled like a soldier who remembered what suffering looked like. One day, during a visit to a desert moon, a group of children ran up to him. One of them, a small girl with orange skin and 4 arms, tugged on his cape. "Are you really the human? Who married the Empress?" Jack knelt and smiled. "Yes." "Are you really the father of the galaxy?" He laughed. "Only if the galaxy behaves." They giggled. Then another child whispered, "We never had a father here, not even a leader who cared." Jack's smile faded. He looked at them seriously. "You have one now." Meanwhile, Princess, Vera continued to train. She studied war, politics, and peacekeeping. She joined her parents on diplomatic missions. She helped design new schools and even led peace talks between 2 rival clans. She was growing into a future queen, and the people loved her. But Jack always reminded her of something important. You don't lead by looking down at people. Lead by standing with them. She never forgot those words. Kalira and Jack remained close. They ruled together not as a cold royal couple, but as partners who respected each other. Their differences made them stronger. Kalira thought like a queen, careful, strategic. Jack thought like a soldier, direct, passionate. Together, they balanced each other, and their love, quiet and steady, never faded. One night, during a quiet dinner, Vera asked a question. "Do you think the galaxy is safe now?" Kalira looked at Jack. He answered, "Safe? Maybe for now. Safety comes and goes." Vera frowned. "Then how do we keep it?" Jack leaned forward. "By teaching others what we've learned. By passing on our strength, our values, our mistakes. That's how peace lasts." Vera nodded. "Then I'll learn everything." Kalira smiled. "But you already are." Years later, the galaxy would still tell stories of the human who became emperor. Some called him a hero, others called him a legend. But those who knew him best remembered him not for war, or titles, or power. They remembered his laughter, his honesty, the way he held his daughter's hand in front of thousands, without shame, the way he hugged soldiers after battle, the way he never wore a crown because he said he didn't need one. And whenever someone asked him, "Why did you stay?" It always answered the same, "Because a little girl asked me to be her father. I couldn't say no."